Welcome to The Debate. This discussion is brought to you from Digi-Tech Debates, a segment of Project Plain Talk. Today, we're diving into the emerging and highly complex field of digital bioacoustics, specifically looking at the use of artificial intelligence to decode animal communication.
Mm-hmm.
And the central question we are exploring today is this. Does the application of advanced AI and information theory to animal signals mean we are genuinely translating a language, with subjective meaning and intent?
Or
Or
are we simply using incredibly advanced sensors to map statistical data structures that we are, frankly, dangerously anthropomorphizing?
Right, exactly. And this entire conversation draws upon recent technological breakthroughs and massive data sets, including initiatives like the Earth Species Project and the Cetacean Translation Initiative. I'll be arguing that AI is uncovering true structural language, syntax, and communicative intent in non-human species, representing a philosophical revolution in how we understand intelligence on Earth.
And my position is that while AI is undeniably adept at mapping acoustic data and mathematical patterns, equating this statistical correlation to linguistic meaning is scientifically premature. And treating these patterns as a translatable language risks creating unprecedented tools for human exploitation of the natural world.
So, to expand on why I believe this is a genuine linguistic breakthrough, we really have to look at the sheer scale of the technological shift we're witnessing right now. For centuries, human understanding of animal communication was severely limited by our own auditory constraints and our inability to process massive amounts of data simultaneously.
Right.
But we're no longer bound by those limitations. We're deploying underwater hydrophones across entire ocean basins. We're putting biologgers on individual animals. We're flying acoustic drones deep into remote, previously inaccessible forests.
Yeah, and just to be clear right up front, the sheer volume of data we can collect now is unprecedented compared to even a decade ago. I completely agree that the sensor revolution is fundamentally changing the landscape of biology.
Exactly. And because of that unprecedented volume, we can look at projects that were previously thought impossible. Take biologist David Gruber's Cetacean Translation Initiative, or CETI, which launched back in 2020. They are focused entirely on sperm whales. Now, sperm whales are arguably one of the most socially complex and acoustically active animals in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
They live in total darkness for much of their lives during deep dives, so they rely entirely on sound to navigate and socialize. They communicate using highly structured sequences of clicks known as codas. It sounds almost like a complex Morse code. And what researchers have found is that these patterns vary between different family groups, essentially functioning as localized dialects.
Right, the dialects are fascinating.
They are, and by combining these massive acoustic datasets with advanced machine learning, CTI is determining whether these codas contain elements of syntax and structured conversation. I genuinely believe we are witnessing the creation of a valid zoological version of Google Translate. It is the first serious, technologically viable attempt to literally translate the communication of another highly intelligent species.
Well, I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. The conceptual leap from detecting structural patterns in a dataset to translating a language is massive. Frankly, it is where the rigorous science risks bleeding into science fiction. As I said, I fully acknowledge the immense amount of data being gathered today. The sensor network is real. But we have to look closely at the mathematical framework being used to analyze these signals. It's called information theory.
Right.
Information theory was originally developed in the mid-20th century to study data transmission over phone lines. It was not built to study subjective experience.
But it provides a mathematical foundation for identifying complexity.
It identifies data structure, yes. Let's use an analogy to make this clear. Information theory is a bit like looking at a locked filing cabinet in a foreign office. You can use math to recognize that the folders inside are color-coded, they are arranged alphabetically, and the papers have consistent paragraph breaks. You know it is a highly organized system, but you still have absolutely no idea what those documents actually say.
Ah, I see.
Information theory tells us that a signal has high complexity or follows a predictable sequence. It does not tell us what that signal means to the sender. To illustrate this limitation, consider recent discoveries in digital bioacoustics regarding plants. Researchers have shown that even stressed plants, like tomato or tobacco plants deprived of water, emit ultrasonic clicks. Those clicks are measurable, they are data-rich, they occur in the 40 to 80 kilohertz range, and AI can absolutely categorize them based on the specific stressor the plant is experiencing.
Yes, but
But it would be absurd to suggest that a tomato plant is speaking a language with communicative intent. We are conflating the biological emission of data with semantic meaning and applying the highly loaded label of translation to what is essentially just sophisticated pattern recognition.
I see why you think that. But let me give you a different perspective, specifically on that question of communicative intent. Comparing a highly social large-brained mammal to a stressed tomato plant ignores the deeply interactive nature of the communication we are observing. To dismiss these interactions as mere biological data emissions fails to account for how these animals actually engage with the signals. Consider the remarkable recent experiment conducted by researchers from the SETI Institute, UC Davis, and the Alaska Whale Foundation. Have you looked closely at the humpback whale experiment?
I have, yeah. The encounter with the whale they named Twain.
Yes, Twain. They achieved what is likely the first interactive acoustic exchange between humans and a humpback whale in the whale's own communication system. The logistics of this are fascinating. Researchers on a boat in southeast Alaska dropped an underwater speaker into the ocean and played a recorded humpback contact call, specifically a whoop call. Twain, an adult humpback, approached the research boat and began repeatedly replying to the calls. For 20 full minutes, Twain and the researchers engaged in a rhythmic back-and-forth exchange. But here's the critical part, and the reason this goes far beyond a plant emitting a stress click. Twain didn't just respond blindly. The whale adjusted the timing of its calls to explicitly mirror the interval patterns of the human-generated playback signal. If the researchers waited 10 seconds to broadcast the next call, Twain waited 10 seconds to reply.
Right.
According to SETI scientist Lawrence Doyle, a foundational assumption in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence is that intelligent beings will deliberately attempt to communicate with potential receivers. They will try to establish a recognizable pattern. When Twain heard that contact call, the whale was motivated to respond, engage, and adapt its own acoustic behavior to match the researchers. That proves curiosity and deliberate communicative intent are not uniquely human traits.
The Twain encounter is fascinating, I'll give you that. It is a brilliant piece of field research. But we really need to put the word intent under a microscope here. Does mirroring a sound interval actually mean Twain understood the meaning of the exchange? Or is it just a highly sophisticated behavioral reaction to a weird new noise in the water?
I think the adaptability points to intent.
I want to be clear that I do not deny the profound intelligence of humpback whales. The source material explicitly outlines why they are ideal subjects for this kind of study. They have incredibly large brains, they have sophisticated social structures, they demonstrate widespread cultural transmission. We see this in how their long, structured songs evolve and spread across entire ocean basins over time, passed from population to population.
Exactly.
Their behavioral intelligence is staggering. Look at their bubble net feeding systems, a cooperative hunting strategy where multiple whales swim in a shrinking circle, releasing rings of bubbles to trap schools of fish before surging upward together. They possess a rich acoustic repertoire of both songs and social calls,
which makes them the perfect candidates for establishing interspecies communication.
It makes them highly reactive to acoustic stimuli. But mirroring an interval in a contact call does not prove semantic comprehension. It proves that an intelligent animal recognized a pattern and engaged in a reciprocal behavior. Drawing a straight line from a whale matching an acoustic delay to the idea that this is a valid experimental model for decoding extraterrestrial intelligence is a monumental inferential leap. It heavily anthropomorphizes the behavior to fit a very specific human narrative of first contact. We want it to be a conversation, so we label it a conversation.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning because it artificially separates intelligence from communication. The SETI connection is actually highly logical, not just a romantic narrative. One of the central practical challenges of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence is learning how to recognize meaningful signals in a vast sea of cosmic noise. If we ever receive a signal from another civilization, the sender will undoubtedly be intelligent, but their communication system will be entirely unfamiliar to human cognition.
Sure.
By studying humpback whales, scientists aren't just projecting human desires onto animals. They are doing the vital empirical work of exploring how to detect patterns, structure, and intentional responses in signals produced by a non-human intelligence. It is quite literally practice for decoding alien messages. And this brings me to the core methodology of the Earth Species Project.
The ESP, right? They are taking a very different approach than CT.
Exactly. The Earth Species Project is a nonprofit bringing together experts in AI, neuroscience, linguistics, and ecology. What makes their approach so revolutionary, as discussed by Jane Lawton at the World Government Summit, is that their AI systems are identifying structure in animal sounds without prior human interpretation. They are using self-supervised learning to map the shape of a communication system into a geometric space. Much like Kon Slobodichkov's Animal Language Institute and his startup Zoolingua. Zoolingua works to interpret dog vocalizations not just by listening to a bark, but by analyzing massive data sets of the dog's body language, the angle of the ears, the speed of the tail wag, the posture, combined with the vocalization, to derive actual context. ESP is taking this concept and scaling it up. Bypassing human bias entirely, the algorithms analyze these massive data sets to uncover hidden grammar and social function without us needing a Rosetta Stone. The ultimate goal isn't just passively interpreting animal sounds, it's translating human language into the communication systems of other species. AI is bridging the gap between entirely different cognitive realities.
I come at it from a different way, primarily because the Google Translate metaphor that ESP, SATI, and others constantly invoke is fundamentally flawed. When you translate English to Spanish or Mandarin to Arabic, you are always relying on a shared human cognitive framework. Both languages, no matter how structurally different, describe a human experience of the world. They deal with human concepts of time, spatial geometry, emotional states, and physical objects, all processed through the exact same biological hardware, a human brain. Translating human concepts to species that experience reality in entirely divergent ways is a profound category error.
But AI doesn't rely on human biological hardware to find the patterns.
The AI doesn't, but the output we expect from the AI does. We want the AI to give us something we can understand. Take elephants, for example. Elephants communicate using infrasound, low-frequency rumbles that travel for kilometers not just through the air, but through the ground. They literally feel the communication through their feet.
Right.
Or consider forest ecosystems that exchange chemical signals through complex underground fungal networks. Their subjective experience of the world is biologically alien to ours. When a machine learning model analyzes these datasets without human interpretation, it is mapping statistical correlations. It might perfectly correlate a specific acoustic sequence with a specific behavioral outcome. It might learn that a highly specific combination of clicks from a sperm whale reliably precedes a deep dive, or that a certain bird call always results in the sudden flight of a flock. That is biologically invaluable information. It is incredible science, but it is not a two-way translation.
I see your point, but
A statistical model that predicts what a sperm whale code-up precedes behaviorally is just incredibly sophisticated pattern recognition. Calling it translation implies that the AI understands the subjective, lived meaning of that coda, which it simply does not.
That's an interesting point, though. I would frame it differently. I think your insistence on requiring a perfectly shared cognitive framework might be the exact historical bias that digital bioacoustics is finally dismantling. Dr. Karen Backer articulates this beautifully in her book, The Sounds of Life. She points out that for most of human history, we have seen ourselves as the only species capable of complex communication, the only beings with true language, simply because we were deaf to the rest of the planet.
Deaf to the frequencies they operate on, yes.
Right. Advances in sensors and AI are revealing a world that was always talking, just at frequencies or in mediums we couldn't perceive. For a long time, we assumed most fish were completely silent. Now we know coral reefs are incredibly noisy, complex acoustic environments. We didn't know about those ground-traveling elephant rumbles until we had the tools to record them. I argue that the technological breakthrough of AI pattern recognition is actually secondary to the philosophical revolution it triggers.
How so?
By learning to decode these voices, we are fostering a profound deepening of human empathy toward the living world. Imagine the transformation in wildlife conservation when scientists can detect distress, illness, or environmental threats in real time, straight from the acoustic signals of the ecosystem. If a coral reef is dying, we can hear the change in the acoustic signature before the physical degradation becomes irreversible. It shifts our entire paradigm. We realize that the Earth is not silent and that we were never alone on this planet. We simply did not yet know how to listen.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered the severe practical risks that accompany this exact paradigm shift? You mentioned wildlife conservation and the veterinary benefits of understanding animals' needs, and those are absolutely the best-case scenarios. But the research also clearly warns that breakthroughs in animal communication will grant humans an unprecedented sense of control over other species. It is not just about empathy. It is about leverage.
But any new technology carries the risk of misuse. That shouldn't invalidate the discovery itself.
It doesn't invalidate the discovery, but it fundamentally changes how we should talk about it. If we successfully map and decode the precise acoustic signals that trigger specific behavioral responses in animals, that knowledge can be weaponized just as easily as it can be used for conservation. Think about the direct implications for industrial farming.
Okay.
If an AI model can map the exact vocalizations of distress, hunger, or contentment in livestock, what is to stop massive agricultural corporations from using that data merely to increase the efficiency of factory farming? They could use acoustic monitoring to perfectly optimize feeding schedules and meat production at the expense of genuine animal welfare, treating the animals even more like biological machines.
I see the concern, but transparency in that data could also force better welfare standards. If consumers can literally hear the distress of livestock, decoded by AI, the agricultural industry would face immense pressure to change.
Perhaps, but history shows us that efficiency usually wins out over empathy in industrial settings, and it extends far beyond farming. Furthermore, these decoded acoustic communication systems could be misused to manipulate wildlife in the open. Imagine creating highly effective AI-generated acoustic lures. If you know the exact dialect and syntax of a specific family group of endangered animals, you could broadcast a fabricated call to draw them right into a specific area.
Wow, yeah.
That is a terrifying tool in the hands of poachers or illegal hunting operations, and we cannot ignore the military applications, given humanity's long and troubling history of using animals in warfare, from bomb-sniffing dolphins to carrier pigeons. The fundamental challenge here isn't just whether AI can decode the signals. It is ensuring that this new, profound knowledge strengthens coexistence rather than simply amplifying our capacity for ecological exploitation.
I don't disagree that the risks of exploitation are significant, and they require stringent oversight. But the potential for misuse does not negate the reality of what the technology is uncovering about the cognitive lives of these animals. To summarize my position in light of our discussion today, the digital bioacoustics revolution, powered by the synthesis of advanced sensors and artificial intelligence, is proving unequivocally that the natural world is engaged in incredibly complex communication. From the intricate, dialect-driven codas of sperm whales studied by CET, to the rhythmic, socially interactive contact calls of humpback whales like Twain, we are finally building the technological infrastructure to recognize and interact with non-human intelligence. We are moving past the arrogant assumption that humans are the sole possessors of language. We are developing tools that allow us to tune into the hidden conversations of the earth, whether that is whale songs deep in the ocean, the alarm calls of birds, or the chemical signaling of forests. This is a vital evolutionary step in human understanding and a necessary humbling of our species.
And to summarize my perspective, I fully agree that AI and modern sensors are revealing a highly complex, noisy planet full of hidden biological signals. The data we are gathering is revolutionary. However, I maintain that applying deeply human terms like language, syntax, and translation to what information theory actually accomplishes obscures the scientific reality of the technology. We are mapping statistical patterns and behavioral correlations, not achieving mutual semantic understanding.
Right.
A danger of anthropomorphizing these signals to fit a Google Translate metaphor is that it blinds us to the deeply alien, fundamentally different nature of animal cognition. And worse, treating these biological algorithms as a language to be spoken opens the door to unprecedented ecological manipulation. We must ensure that as we decode the data structures of the natural world, we do so to protect these ecosystems on their own terms, not to engineer or exploit them for human utility.
It seems we have reached some clear points of convergence today, even if we remain fundamentally divided on the implications. We both fully acknowledge the profound nature of the sensor and AI revolution. We agree that humans previously lacked the tools to detect these rich acoustic repertoires. And we both recognize the immense scale and scientific validity of the data being collected by organizations like the Earth Species Project, SETI, and the SETI Institute. The data itself, the sheer volume of biological noise we are now capturing, is not in question.
I will gladly agree on the data. The sensor networks are incredible, and the Earth is far noisier and more complex than we ever imagined. I won't dispute that. But I won't concede that we are translating a language. The divergence lies entirely in the interpretation of that data. We remain in substance disagreement over whether information theory and AI pattern recognition equate to true semantic translation. We are mapping a biological machine, and the risk of exploiting that machine is too high to ignore. We differ heavily on the long-term human impact of this technology, whether the primary outcome will be a deepening of human empathy and conservation, as you suggest, or an expansion of human dominance and exploitation, as I fear.
It is a profound intersection of biology, technology, and philosophy. As we've discussed, learning to analyze the communication systems of highly intelligent, socially complex species like whales might very well be our practice for decoding unfamiliar alien messages in the future. But before we can truly understand voices from distant planets, we must first learn how to listen to the many voices already sharing this one.
Learning to listen to the Earth is just the first step. Deciding how we interpret and act on what we hear will be the true test of our own intelligence.
We encourage you, the listener, to delve deeper into the raw material and the fascinating research of these various projects, to form your own conclusions about what it means to tune in to the hidden conversations of the Earth. Thank you for joining us for this discussion.